Roses are red, violets are blue. Oh, man. Romantic love. We're just a couple of days away from Valentine's, and so on this Theology Thursday, I thought I'd talk a little bit about romantic love and what the Bible has to say about it. So the first thing that I want to look at is just a verse, excuse me, in Scripture, in Proverbs 18. And verse 22 says, "He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord." Okay? So, love is a good thing. You find a good thing when you find a good spouse. But does the Bible really talk about romance? I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, he's going to talk about Song of Solomon. Yes, because Song of Solomon is full of romance. There are other passages in the Bible that talk about how someone tried to romance a female, to woo her. And so typically in romance, not always, but normally, the man is the initiator, the one who designs and plans all the action. The female is more of the receiver, so it's the man who buys the roses. It's the man who gets her favorite chocolates or takes her to her favorite restaurant. It's the man who, gets the cards and all that kind of thing. He's trying to win fair maiden, so to speak. So romantic love certainly is in Scripture. However, I do want to note two things when it comes to romantic expression and romantic love. The first one is that romance is used to win the young lady. And there's a great deal of this in the Song of Solomon. He does all these things for her in Song of Solomon. He talks about how he desires Syria. He describes her physical beauty. And I know it describes it in some ways we wouldn't. I typically wouldn't tell my wife that her hair looks like a flock of goats coming down Mount Gilead, or that her teeth look like well-shorn sheep, or something like that. But for them, those are expressions of beauty. And so whatever in your culture expresses beauty and infatuation is fine. But it's used to win their heart, to pursue them, to show them that you love them. And so the first thing is that that's how romance is used. But the second thing is that romance is also connected with physical intimacy. And that element of it is reserved for marriage. So I'm not going to read through the whole Song of Solomon because it's too long to read all 8 chapters. But the young shepherd boy and King Solomon in all of his glory are both trying to woo the same female. But particularly the shepherd boy, there's a strong focus on this, that he consistently describes his romantic overtures, his romantic endeavors to get her to marry him. In other words, the first goal of romance is that it leads to marriage. And there is a chastity element to it. When you read the Song of Solomon, you discover that the descriptions of physical intimacy, which are fairly graphic, are all spoken of in the context of when we get married. In other words, romance doesn't end when you get married. Romance is I hate to say a tool, but I'll word it that way, is a tool that we use to attract and normally a man romancing a young lady. And he wins her heart, and then they want to get married. That's the first goal of romance. And by the way, romance isn't just flowers and candlelight. Romance is also taking off your jacket and putting around her when she's cool, pulling out her chair for her, opening the door for her. I used to say opening the door to the car for her. I don't anymore because I live in the desert. The more romantic thing to do is say, wait here by the door of the store, and I go out to the car and get the air conditioning going because it's 115 outside and it's 130 inside the car. I don't know that it's romantic to put her in the car and close the door when it's an oven in there and then to walk around and get in and start the car. So getting out ahead of her and getting the car started and the air conditioner going might be a little more romantic. But regardless, going for a walk in the park and just being together, holding her hand. So there's lots of ways of romance, not just, again, flowers and candlelight. Oftentimes just a simple sacrifice of sitting down and watching some Hallmark romance movie is a way to win her heart. And for the young lady to sit down and to watch, Die Hard or Rambo, or a Clint Eastwood Western, or any kind of movie where the guy, defeats the enemy, saves the world, and wins the girl kind of thing. And she endures it type of deal. And so, there are lots of ways of doing romance, even just a foot rub or whatever. But it's always described in Scripture, particularly in Song of Solomon, as moving towards marriage. Then romance continues after marriage, but that romance ends now in physical intimacy. So keeping that distinction in Song of Solomon is important. Their discussions of the intimacy really cross a lot of lines, so to speak, but those lines are always described in terms of when we're married, this is how we'll behave. So the Bible does know of romance. And I think that a young man should, if he finds a young lady that loves the Lord and that he dislikes being around with her, would like to spend the rest of his life with her, begins to romance her in order to win her heart, to pursue her, but in a very godly, respectful manner. Then after they're married, continues to romance her, but now there's an additional added element of physical intimacy connected with that romance that comes after marriage, which is one of the things that makes marriage wonderful and beautiful. And so this is how the Bible describes romance. So yes, it's okay to be romantic. Matter of fact, I don't think it's okay to be romantic. I think every man, when he is ready to find a bride, begins to look and says, hey, is there a young lady that I would like to, I'm physically attracted to, I feel emotional connection, we both are desiring to live for the Lord and to serve Him, to make Jesus number one, and now he begins to pursue her and to romance her, writing poetry, even though it's usually pretty bad, all the things that guys do. But the goal is not to get physical with her, in which case basically he's only romancing to validate his own needs or whatever, his own desires, but instead to romance her, to win her heart, so that then they get married. And after he has her heart, now he has her body. And actually that makes it better for both of them. And 1 Corinthians describes this about, the woman's body's not for her own but for her husband, the husband's body not for his own but for his wife. And again, it's spoken of in the context of marriage. So romance leads to marriage. More romance leads to physical intimacy. That's the way the Bible describes it and lays it out. So, ladies, I encourage you to find a man that will romance you correctly. He wants to win your heart, but he shows respect towards you. He respects you because he respects Jesus. And so he defines and respects those physical boundaries. And then after your marriage, continues to romance you because he loves you. And he wants romance now to be full bloom, to be full bore. And young men and old men, if you've been married a long time, I encourage you, continue to romance your wife. It is very, very biblical. And I believe that romance is one of those elements that helps keep a marriage good and strong. And if a guy's not going to romance you to try to win you as his bride, he's not going to romance you after you're married. Just need to be aware of that. So, hey, thumbs up to romantic love. And if you are in a relationship with someone, I hope you romance them well for Valentine's Day, but also respect them and maintain those physical boundaries. And if you're married, man, sweep her off her feet once again. And ladies, I hope that you have someone who will sweep you off your feet. And if you're a parent of a daughter, pray that she'll meet that kind of guy. And if you are the parent of a son, pray that he will be that kind of man. So God bless you. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you have a very romantic Valentine's Day.